that's the logic of their answer, which now we're back to Gilles' point about there is actually a logical progression that goes on, even though what we're doing is beyond logic. That itself creates a condition for the appearance of consciousness, which is impersonal. It has nothing to do with the person as an individual. It has to do with them seeking something much larger than that and much more meaningful than that. How are you going to create that in people? I mean, it's not easy. You can do it with ayahuasca, you can do it with, psychedelics, you can do it with meditation. This is an opportunity to do it as a building block, as a scaffolding inside of undoing knots and untying problems. So now you're starting to see like just how much is happening in that session. It looks like a correction. It looks like we're solving a problem. But what's really happening is we're untying a knot, we're letting the consciousness and subconsciousness work together, we're creating connection and rapport, we're embodying subconsciousness ourselves as hypnotists, which creates that mastermind. And as a byproduct of all that, or perhaps as the main job of all that, we're inviting the client to have an experience of connection with the field, whatever you want to call that. The quantum field, the pure consciousness is what Deepak called it. So now we're again answering Sierra's question. Why will it always work? Why is there nothing that stands outside of the realm of what could be solved? Because that's much bigger than me, because that's a much more powerful entity than I am as an individual. So the fractionation is the link to hypnosis. I don't have to force that or create it because the Q&A does it for me. So the investigation should meet the client at their problem because that's the invitation. My technique, if I bring one, is not an invitation. It's an imposition. That's not the same endeavor. The questions create momentum inside of the problem and make it stretchy, make it malleable. Now we're allowing more room to look at it. Now we're allowing perspective. Solution-based questions do not create that. Okay, so have you thought about doing a calendar? That's not an invitation to pure consciousness. That's an invitation to go fuck yourself, lady. Of course I've thought of that. In fact, it's creating a weakening of my interest in consciousness because now I'm feeling pulled towards practical things, which I don't want, me being the client. So instead of helping and instead of problem solving, we want to just dig into the problem because what's behind the problem is what? The field. The field is behind the problem. The field has everything in it. You don't have everything in you. Hate to break it to you. You're special, but you're not that special. Like, you don't have the answer. The field has the answer. If you trust that, MOS, it's fast. So why we use the interview is as soon as you apply a skip, the technique, whatever, we're just erasing the symptom. We're not actually teaching the client anything about their soul. You might as well just teach them how to breathe and some coping techniques. That will not put you in touch with the field. Number 2, hypnotic suggestions, patterns, confusion tactics. Very hard to remember all that. If I'm working on all that stuff and trying to manipulate it all, and the field is right here, and I forget about that, that makes no sense. Why would I abandon the field for my education? Why don't I just abandon my education for the field? Do you know how hard that is for me to say? I have a $500,000 education. It's like very expensive lesson to learn. The field has more information in it than my education does. And I don't mean just mine. I mean any therapeutic education. I don't even have a therapeutic education. But the books you read don't have the field in them. The techniques you learn don't have the field in them. Number 3, homework, audios, all the homework shit that we send people, very tiring, very repetitive, not an invitation to the field, lacks the magic. Back to Sierra's question, she wants to capture the magic. Well, then don't do stuff that takes you away from the magic. Only do stuff that gives you the magic. Anything that's predictable, like a journal, that's going to take you away from the field. Then the client trusts you less. Then you have less magic going on. That doesn't make sense. Multiple sessions, multiple hours, packages, programs, too long, too drawn out, not magical in terms of what Deepak Chopra just said. Negative hypnosis is not a logical direction to go. Oh, it'll take us 6, 8, 10 sessions. That's not inspiring. That doesn't hypnotize me into thinking I'm healing. Rapport, pre-talk, suggestibility test, deepeners, all too much work, all too much in opposition to the natural effect of the subconscious mind. Same thing about telling what hypnosis is and isn't. Like, okay, I do that. I do it on my discovery call some, but at the end of the day, again, any of that kind of instructional, didactic, pedagogical approach is not where the field is. That's the frontal lobe. That's the consciousness. So none of that is my goal. So when I'm asking questions, I'm not thinking about, is it the right question? I'm not thinking about, is this the most useful question? I'm just thinking to ask a question that naturally follows from what's happening so that the client is in the flow of their own self-discovery process. If I ask something that doesn't help, it doesn't matter because all roads will lead me there anyway, because there's only one place to go, which is the solution. So try your best to, or don't try, do this. Reduce the number of words, reduce the strategy, reduce the calculation, and just ask the question. I have in bold at the bottom, also be willing to ask what no one is willing to ask. I did put Sierra on the spot quite a bit in her session about like, well, so are you benefiting from laying in bed? I mean, that's not something that people naturally ask each other. Like if you're hanging out with your friends, they're probably not going to be like, so is your laziness paying off for you, right? But at the bottom of it, that's what she's saying. I might as well just ask her to think about it. I wasn't mean about it, but I was kind of like, well, how's that working out for you? That's like asking a question no one, that's very Ericksonian. Like, well, let's just get down to it. So at the end of the day, this is what you said, this is what you said. So now what?